Welcome to the Show Up Show, where we bring you everything you need to emerge as a powerful and healthy leader in your life, business, and relationships. Because how you show up in one area of life is how you show up in all of them. I'm your host, Debbie Pace, author of The Journal to Freedom, a foundational guide to help you examine your beliefs and how they shape your patterns and behaviors in life, so you can transform what's not working and can show up like a boss in every area of your life. How could getting rid of the family heirloom or kids' decades of art projects be the thing that helps your business explode? Tune in as Krystal Holm, interior designer and feng shui expert with soul and space alignment, tells us how.
I'm Krystal Holm. I am an interior designer and a feng shui master. So what I do is I teach soul-driven female entrepreneurs the principles of feng shui to design a workspace that really acts as an energetic amplifier that shifts them to powerfully show up in their business.
One of the things I love about what you do, Krystal, it sounds amazing, by the way, but one of the things I love about what you do is that it seems to me like you wouldn't have to truly come in. It's not a brand new modality. People understand feng shui because we've been kind of tossing the term around for so long. Like, I need, the feng shui in my home is, and my stairs can't lead out my front door and all these different things. And it's interesting because you're actually a professional at it and not just someone who tosses the term around. So how do you incorporate that in an office, for say? What does that even look like?
Well, I actually have my own proprietary method. It's called the Designed Life Method: mind, body, soul, and home. So there are 4 power pillars that I address when I work with clients, for example. The first one being the mindset piece, because your home is just an extension of you. You are not a reflection of your environment. Your environment is a reflection of you. And so everything you own, you have an energetic connection to. And I love to deep dive into what I call decluttering the mindset, because so many of us have these limiting beliefs that hold us back from really achieving what we want, whether it's the story that we're telling or wherever it comes from. And we can go the long route, and do a dozen years of personal development work, which is what I did.
I think we all did, right? So many of us here right now have done that.
Or we can take the shortcut piece and we can literally look at the things you own and dig deeper into the story of what the clutter represents and where is that limiting belief. And we can literally declutter it out of your space, physically, mentally, and emotionally, all in one go.
Ooh, okay. So I'm looking at my desk right now and I'm thinking, oh man, I have no idea what all of this stuff represents to me. And I would imagine, Krystal, that you get people who are almost like, well, no, I don't really want to address that. I just want to declutter the space. Just like make it pretty. Help me be more productive and organized in my office. I don't need to go through all the emotional baggage of it. Let's just take care of it, right?
Right. I get that from almost every client. And the funny thing is, usually what they do is they come in and they pay me for this part, and then they go into an avoidance mechanism because they do want to avoid it. And what they're really avoiding is not wanting to face their
schnizzle. No, of course you can't on here. It's okay. We're not a kid-friendly podcast necessarily, so you're good.
Right. They don't want to face their shit. Sometimes it's, hard conversations. Sometimes it's, my husband is the thing that's holding me back. And I would rather put my blinders on and ignore the clutter, ignore that thing that I don't want to talk about and I don't want to address. And that's what your clutter really is. It's either, for the most part, it's one of 3 things, what I find with clients. It's your scarcity mindset, it is your worthiness mindset, and it is your obligation mindset. And those are the 3 big ones that I normally find.
Wow. Okay, so number 3, most of the people in the personal development world can probably understand, and even not in the personal development world, can probably understand 1 and 2 fairly easily, right? Worthiness, feeling not good enough. Talk to me about number 3, because that one really piqued my interest.
Oh, it's all the shoulding that we do on ourselves. Comparisons. It is the living by someone else's values. because your parents taught you that you should be this, or you somewhere took in a story that said, I should be more successful. I've been in my business for 4 years. I should have achieved this. It's, I should be doing this. I should be doing that. It's all of those obligations, and it's all of the obligations to other people. It's, I should keep this thing. Like, for example, a tea set that one of my clients had kept in her closet for years and years and years and years and years. She hated it. She hated this tea set. It was something that she inherited from her grandmother when she passed, but it didn't bring up good feelings. It brought up yuck. And her mother would call her about once a week or so and check on the tea set. It's weird, I know, but she couldn't get rid of it. And yet it brought up all this angst and anxiety and obligation for her to keep it. And it was really stopping her from owning her own space. Like, there was this obligation in her life that she's supposed to live her life the way her mother expected her to.
So mom calls and says, hey, I'm glad you're doing well, but how's the tea set?
Right. It was a weird dichotomy that was happening there. And it was just a conversation that she didn't want to have around, yeah, I don't want this thing, because it's well, grandma left that to you in her will, and therefore it should mean something to you other than it should mean to you what it means to me.
Ooh, that's so deep. That's complex. I mean, that's some pretty deep stuff right there.
Yes, it is.
And it's a tea set, for God's sake.
It's a tea set. And so it came down to a conversation. Like, you need to have, you're grown up. Stop living by what your parents are expecting of you. You're not in high school anymore. You don't have to bring home the straight A's on your report card. Like, there's all this stuff that people put on us that we then carry into entrepreneurship. And then when we fail, we don't ever look at it like what it is. We look at it as, it's not, I have failed. It's, I am a failure.
Right. We personalize the failure completely.
Personalize it. Yes.
Wow.
And all of these expectations around, here's another one, productivity. You should work in your business for 8 hours a day. You should get all these, we're crappy bosses to ourselves, horribly crappy bosses to us, because that's what we've learned from being an employee and what our bosses put on us. This is my expectation, that you get all of this done in my time frame.
And now everybody's online, so it's like, you should be doing the hustle. And I'll be honest and open, there's so much value in doing the work, for sure. But there's a balance between doing the work and then taking care of you. So there's this whole thing about the hustle and all these stories, and we see people killing it online, and it's like, oh my gosh, I need to hustle, I need to do more. But really, the opposite happens. And then when the real stuff starts to happen for people is when they pause, they step back and they take that time and they say, no, this isn't for me. They get real. They get really real. Like, you're talking about a lot of physical clutter, but you go in and you are really removing that mental, emotional, psychological clutter that we've brought on. I mean, it's an epidemic in our society of taking on all the things from everyone and thinking we have to perform. I was going to ask you a question, Krystal, because I'm like a new fangirl. And so I'm really interested in hearing, one of the things that I'm fully aware of, like in my family, is that we keep things that are the kids' things, like the things that kids did in preschool and daycare.
Oh, there's some more obligation.
So is that what because I was thinking, I'm sitting here thinking about the 3, and I'm thinking, which one would that be? That's the obligation one. And then I guess then it's like the meaning that we attach to their childhood or to losing the childhood, or
it's more like a this is what good moms do. We
Ooh.
Keep everything our kids ever created,
Ooh.
because if we throw it away, it means we're a bad mom.
Ooh, the bad mom syndrome. Okay, so yeah, because I was sitting here going, okay, if I were to look,
yeah, not everything they paint is a masterpiece. Sometimes it's crap, and it's okay to throw it away. It doesn't mean your kid is crap. It doesn't even mean they're a crappy artist. It just means you don't have to keep all these things. When I had boxes of all of the stuff, like everything my kids ever did from all through elementary school, like math homework. Really?
Yes.
Like seriously, that's what I'm supposed to do to be a good mom, so that someday when they grow up and they move out and they have their own life, now I can give them this box of crap because they're going to want it for
And show them how intelligent they were in second grade because they knew 2 + 2 was 4. Like, really?
Show them how much they mattered to me because I kept all of their stuff.
Ooh. I love what you're saying. And I just know that anyone listening to this podcast is really going to pick up what you're laying down. And I don't think anyone's going to leave this podcast looking around at their home and not now looking at, ooh, okay, well, what is that? Ooh, okay, well, what is this? So the work that you do is so important, but yet there's a fun element to it. So you have this super proprietary process, which sounds amazing just from talking to you. But what can you tell us about when let's say you go into an office, where do you start?
Start with the decluttering. That's the first pillar. And the reason it goes mind, body, soul, home is because a lot of feng shui has gotten a bad rap from, it was like the 90s when it became the thing, right? When they broke ground on Trump Tower, actually, is when it became mainstream, because he understood that the people that were coming were from an Asian culture, and it was real estate money coming into New York. So he feng shuied the office building because he knew they would buy if it was feng shuied, because they believe in it, even if he didn't. The thing is, everybody then jumped on the bandwagon and became a feng shui expert and put out a lot of misinformation. And so a lot of people think feng shui is a band-aid, that I can put this thing here in this place and all of a sudden all is right with the world.
Right, exactly.
I can put a water fountain in my money corner and all of a sudden money will flow to me. It doesn't work like that. You can't put a band-aid on a broken bone and expect it to be fixed. You have to do the underneath work first. We need to declutter the crap so that then we can get the energy flowing the way it is supposed to, like the way it is ideally flowing, because it's all about energy in your space, right? It flows, it's in everything. It's like the actual literally meaning of feng shui is wind, water, because energy is in the air, but it flows like water through your space. So if you've got clutter is stagnating the energy in one spot, the energy in that area of your life is going to stagnate. So your money's not going to flow. You're not going to get clients. Your relationships are going to struggle. You're not going to have the fame or the recognition that you want. Your health is going to go downhill. Your creativity is not there. You're stuck. Or your relationships with your family, your legacy, those things are going to be stranded. Your own knowledge of yourself and your career path. Those are the main areas of the map, we'll say, that are mapped out in your space. That is really a map of your mind, how we generally live instinctively in our space versus living intentionally in our space. So we start with decluttering, and then we move into the next phase of creating the spaces that you need. We haven't really talked about my story and what led me.
Yeah, that's exactly where I was going to go next. I'm thinking, okay, this is all amazing stuff, but we need to start at the beginning. How'd you get here?
I started studying energy work as a young child, right? A very young child, around age 9. And my favorite toy as a child was my Barbie dream house. So I was always decorating and doing energy work, strangely enough. Fast forward to college, and I went to school for interior design. And in my psychology class was introduced to feng shui for an essay that I had to write. And I'd been applying it as a band-aid for years, trying to figure it out, until in 2016, I was injured on my job and I couldn't walk anymore. I couldn't walk and I couldn't work. And so I've always wanted to be an entrepreneur since I was a young child. I've started multiple businesses over my lifetime. All of them failed.
Preach, sister, preach.
And it was mindset. I know it was mindset now, looking backwards. But then it was just, I'm a failure, I'm a failure, I'm a failure. So when I injured myself and I was stuck at home on bed rest, I had been toying with this feng shui business that I really wanted to get into. I'd been on it for a couple of years trying to figure out what. And so in 2016, when I could no longer walk, I started working with a coach, but I really got serious about my business. And so I started doing it on the side, and I started doing yoga because it was a work comp injury. And so I was busy fighting with the work comp insurance people who never want to pay for anything. And they just want to prove that everybody's lying and faking it all. Right. So I was on my own. I couldn't get traditional medication or medical treatment for 2.5 years. I was fighting this battle, and my body was getting worse and worse and worse. And so I literally started doing yoga just to maintain, not, or slow down the deterioration of my body. And as it was maintaining, but it was at least slowing down the process. I was getting more and more stuck in my mindset, in my business, in my body. All of it was getting stuck. When I moved to a new place, I literally feng shuied my place on purpose to create a self-care space for me to do yoga in the health quadrant of my space, so that as I was doing yoga and I was raising all of this energy with my activity, I was raising it in that area of my life and of my environment. And so it was amplifying every time I would do it.
Ooh.
And one of the things I know from my corporate career as an interior designer, I worked in very high-end residential, very high-end. We're talking like $1 million furniture budgets. I
Wow.
worked with entrepreneurs. I worked with the heir to Frito-Lay. I worked with the people that started eBay. I worked with a princess. I worked with all of these people that they were raised to think totally differently and to act totally differently in the way they live in their space. And so what I discovered was every one of them have self-care spaces in their office. They have space to meditate. They have space to read. They have space to stretch their bodies and to do yoga. And so what the C-suite people are doing is way different than what the employee people are doing
Right, right.
as far as productivity. And what I found was the more I did yoga, the more I was able to get my body unstuck and my mindset unstuck. And I was literally doing the decluttering in the mindset part, which is what sort of brought me full circle to I started connecting the dots of this is what that is and this is what that is, because I took the time to do the self-care. So nowadays, like when I sit down to write an email and I'm stuck and I can't figure out how to speak to my audience, rather than sitting here at my desk for, 4 or 5 hours trying to write an email, I know that if I go hit my yoga mat for an hour, it'll take me 20 minutes when I'm done to write that exact same email. So I'm actually getting more productive by doing the self-care piece, like C-suite people, like people that were born into a different mindset and a different way of being.
Right. So more like take care of you first, and then the rest of it gets to be easy.
That's where abundance actually starts. We all live in this scarcity mindset, right? And it affects how we do everything. I don't have enough time, I don't have enough energy, and I don't have enough money. All of that is scarcity. And so people always tell me, I don't have enough time for self-care. Well, how many hours did you sit staring at your computer, being stuck in your thoughts, not able to pull anything out? When if you had just taken the time for self-care, whether it be yoga or meditation or, whatever, I have a couple different practices that I do. One of them came straight out of Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. He talks about his council of advisors,
Mm-hmm.
where he takes time to meditate and get in his head. And that's how he gets unstuck with writing the email, right?
Right.
That's a practice. You create space for that. You create a specific space for that. And if you do it my way, according to my method, we're going to do it in the area where you need the work.
I love that.
So if you're struggling with your creativity, having your self-care space in your creativity area and and then spending your time there meditating, which is also going to raise the energy there, it shifts all of that energy flow into making it happen. And all of a sudden you find yourself having more time. Self-care is where abundance starts. Self-care is how you acknowledge your self-worth to yourself. Putting it off and not taking care of you first is all a scarcity mindset. It's all in our way of being,
Right.
the way we think and the way we act.
Right. So you've done a lot of work starting out in working with someone else. You've worked with some really high-end clients, and you've really found your way full circle from going from not having that job anymore to having to really reinvent yourself from the inside out, which is always one of my favorite parts of anyone's story. So what I would love to do now is just, as we wrap up here, really talk about how do you bring that to some of your clients, and how does it translate the ROI, right, for your clients? How does it change their lives? What do they see?
Well, after we design the space and the habits that they need to reach that next level of who they are wanting to become, right? Because we're all just becoming the next level of ourselves. What that has looked like for some of my clients, just within the last couple months, I had one who started a business, who had a dream of a business and was like, I got all of I don't know. And now she's very clear. She started a business and built a website and created an offer. I had another one who was in a business part-time and fighting for having enough time to do her business, because when you work part-time and, she tripled her income.
Wow.
After working with me, she tripled her income and was able to leave her job and go full-time into her business.
And that's a beautiful testament, because so many people are doing multiple businesses, multiple jobs, the side hustle, the side gigs, just to try to make it in the business world. So that's a huge testament to you. So for anyone who can definitely see that they need this in their life, how do they connect with you, Krystal?
If they were interested in working with me, you can go to soulandspacealignment.com. That is where we start. My personal website is at krystalholm.com. And of course, you can find me on all of social media with my name. Facebook is Feng Shui Krystal, and pretty straightforward. And everything else is Krystal Holm.
Right. And that's Krystal with a K. So it's KrystalHolm, as in Michael. Perfect. Well, Krystal, thank you so much for being on the Show Up Show today. I am so interested in diving deeper into what you do and learning more about it. And I'm just grateful to you for coming on here and sharing your story with us, and for the work that you do in the world, because everyone can use a little more decluttering.
For sure. Thank you so much for having me, Deb. I've really enjoyed spending this time with you. And I love talking about decluttering. Decluttering and just becoming that next level version of who we are, the woman that we have always wanted to admire and never really have.
That's beautiful. Thank you.
You're so welcome.
If you like what you're hearing on the Show Up Show, be sure to subscribe. And if you really, really, really like it, please leave a 5-star review. If you'd like to connect with the Show Up Show on social media, you can find us on Facebook at the Show Up Show Podcast, or on Twitter at the Show Up Show. Let's be sure to connect over on the other side. Thanks for listening.